Amy Landecker, your character Sarah in Transparent, what would you say that she learned over the course of her season?
Nothing. I don't think she did learn anything yet. I mean, I think she's trying to learn. I think she wants to sort of figure out who she is, and I think she's exploring. But I don't think she has any idea. I think sort of all of the kids are kind of, even before Mora's revelation, are kind of dissatisfied and lost in their own sort of narcissism. And then there's this sort of explosion of truth that comes into the family, which illuminates, like, crevices that were never looked at. And I think that that starts like an exploration, but I don't think there's any lessons yet.
And do you ever find yourself rooting against her because of the choices that she's making?
Oh, that's a good question. No. I mean, I do think sometimes I've thought I wish she could feel the consequences a little more, um, because I think that that's when you start to make more conscious choices. But no, I love Sarah. I love all the kids too. I mean, people say, is it hard to play an unlikable character? It's like, I don't know anybody in the world that's interesting that I want to hang out with who hasn't made a ton of sort of mistakes in their life. I mean, I think the more fascinating people in the world tend to do some really complicated things.
So you guys actually reshot the pilot, recasting the character that is now played by Melora Hardin, which is particularly important for your character. So did you change anything when you had that second chance?
Gillian Vigment, who played Tammy in the pilot, was a very good friend of mine from Chicago. She was a waitress at a place called John's Place while I was a barista at Starbucks when we just got out of college. And we had, she ended up not being able to do the series because she got pregnant and wanted to, stay home and be with her family. And but I also have to say that I think that everything happens for a reason. And what was different for me between Melora and Gillian is I didn't know Melora, and so I feel like there's a lot more sort of sexual chemistry when you don't know someone. I mean, I think when you're really good friends with someone, especially if that's not your sexual orientation, like I'm not a lesbian. So to try to be a lesbian with also a good friend was not maybe as, I think we were more having fun with each other and making each other laugh, but maybe there wasn't that kind of passion that I feel with Melora. I actually feel genuinely passionate about her when she sort of transforms into Tammy. I think I got to sort of chemistry read with who was going to come in and do Tammy, and I have a natural chemistry with her, which I think is just an animal thing. I mean, I just think there's some people that like male, female, whatever your orientation, you like sniff around and you have a good chemistry with them. I feel like I have that with her. So that was different. It was more sexual for me.
So you mentioned living in Chicago, and I read that you actually lived there for several years before coming to Los Angeles. So why did you wait so long?
I was raised in Chicago. I was moved there when I was 18 months old, and my father is a very well-known disc jockey there, and I sort of grew up very much Chicago identified, loved the city, moved there after college, was working at Steppenwolf Theater and the Goodman Theater, and a lot of ad agencies are based out of there, like J. Walter Thompson and Leo Burnett, and I was able to get into voiceover rather easily because of my dad and the association that I had with him, um, and I became a very successful voiceover artist and theater artist, and I was quite happy. I was living in Chicago, I was dating, I made a good living, I didn't have to wait tables, and I got to work with incredible theater artists, and so there really wasn't a reason to move. And then one of the plays that I did at the Goodman went to New York, and I found myself in New York. I don't know if I would have had the nerve to move myself because I was very comfortable and I don't like a lot of change. And but I took to New York like a duck to water, and had a breakup at the time, so I decided to take a chance. I found an agent during the time that I did that play, and then another play. I spent some time in New York doing theater and voiceover, and then another play, also by Tracy Letts, came out to LA, and that's sort of what got me out to LA. I have no nerve on my own. I've always had to go with like some kind of job. And when I was out in LA, they were casting Serious Man. So that was what, 6 years ago, and so I hadn't moved to LA, but I was out here doing the play. I booked that part, moved back to New York, and was brought back out to play Paul Reiser's wife like 4 years ago. So 4 years ago, I officially moved to Los Angeles, and I was 40 years old, which is like for a female actress, like just insane. But it's worked out. So
Yeah.
I always say that because I think we always hear the other stories. But, you know, you can do anything whenever.
When you type your name into Google, it comes up as Amy Landecker, Louie, and the second one is Amy Landecker, Courtney Cox. I'm wondering, has that ever benefited you, the physical resemblance?
It's so funny. She's a mother in my daughter's class, ironically. We got into this wonderful little school in Los Angeles, and I found out that there's only 24 kids, that Lola was in the same class as Coco, and I went, my ex-husband and I were just like floored because my whole life that has been, you know, people have mistaken me for her. I thought I was her. And but it's funny when you meet someone in person. I don't feel like I look anything like her. I don't think she probably thinks she looks anything like me. I don't. We've never talked about it. I haven't said anything to her. What's happening now more frequently is Amy Brenneman in my current life.
Okay. Yeah.
Everybody thinks I'm Amy Brenneman, and in fact, I was talking to Jamie Priestley last night. She was going on and on about Transparent and congratulating me on it and telling me how great it was. And then she said, now what about The Leftovers? What's going on with The Leftovers? And I was like, I'm not Amy Brenneman. People think I'm actually on both shows. But I had a really cool thing happen to me at Starbucks in New York last week. I walked in and the barista was like giving me that look like she'd seen me from something. And she was like, oh my, you know, you look so familiar, you know who you look like? And my whole life, I always, you know, I said, yeah, Courtney Cox. I know I look like Courtney Cox. And she's like, yeah, Courtney Cox. I said, yeah, I've got it my whole life. And then when I got up to the front of the line, she took out her iPhone, and she goes, no, it's not Courtney Cox. It's this woman, Amy Landecker. And she showed me a picture of myself. I was like, finally, it was me I looked like. For the first time in my life, I looked like me. It was very exciting. I was like, oh, that is me. Yeah, that is me.
Good. And did she still spell your name wrong on the
Oh, she got so excited she forgot. She took a picture with me and she forgot to order my coffee.
Can you tell us about the next season or any other projects that you have coming up?
I decided I'd gotten offered a couple of things at once and decided to go with something that I thought I would never really get offered again, which was like evil FBI in Europe, like sort of my chance at a born supremacy kind of thing. And it was super fun and very, very different than what I normally do. And I also, during the hiatus, I did sort of a Mrs. Robinson kind of thing, and that was interesting. And now, yeah, in 2 weeks I'm going back to start shooting season 2. I know that I didn't want to give too much. I mean, you know, it's kind of like, it's fun to sort of keep it a mystery. If I even say what happened in the first episode, you would know too much. But I think that there'll be some more historical context, and I think there'll be a lot of sex. And for all of us, I've heard particularly for Sarah, I'm not going to say with who, I'm not going to say where, how, what gender, if I'm married or not, I'll leave that all out in the universe, but it'll be entertaining. And I think one thing Jill's been saying that's really interesting is that she felt like season 1 she really had to protect Maura's character. She wanted to like make sure that Maura was like, I don't know, just shown in a positive light and sort of very relatable. And she's mentioned that we have a trans writer on staff, Our Lady J, this year, who's like just sort of encouraging her to have fun with Maura and to go into some storylines that I think are going to be really interesting. So, so that's and I also have heard from the head of development at Amazon that he feels like the scripts this year are unbelievable and just as good as last year, if not better. So I'm excited. I haven't even read anything yet, so I don't really know. Okay. Just heard whispers. I heard I was swinging from the ceiling like naked, but I also heard that got cut, so I can't guarantee that's happening, and I kind of hope it isn't.
Okay, well, I guess we'll find out, and we wish you guys the best of luck at the Emmys. Thanks so much for chatting with us.
Thanks. It was fun talking to you.